like this summer you could come alive again. My new book is almost here. Peace is More Expensive Than Lobster, a wake-up call with lipstick. And over the next 7 weeks, I want to take you on the journey with me. On Tuesday is a special wake-up call with lipstick podcast inspired by one of the chapters of the book. Wednesday at noon, we gather together for conversation, co-working, and encouragement. Throughout the week, we'll keep the discussion going in Pink Lady Posse, pull a few friction cards, and share surprises along the way. Then on Saturday morning, we come together for Think Pink. I'd love to spend a summer with you. Let's go. I am Sandy Parker Martinez, and if this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're spending a few weeks walking through the chapters of my book, Peace is More Expensive Than Lobster. And if you've missed the first 2 weeks, well, let me catch you up. The first week was about friction. We talked about friction and how it's not conflict, it's not stress, and it's not razor burn. Friction is drag, the invisible drag that quietly makes life feel harder than it needs to be. Then we began looking at the different ways women adapt to friction. And I'm calling this series The Women You Know. How do I know you know them? Because we are them. Maybe we have all the patterns, maybe we don't. And they're not personality types. They're not diagnoses. They're not labels. They're just patterns that we've developed over time. And here's what's important. None of us are broken. Every one of us has adapted for a specific reason. And the more women I talk to, the more I realize we probably all recognize ourselves in several of them. Last week, we met our first woman, the peacekeeper. The woman who learned that keeping everyone else comfortable felt safer than asking herself what she wanted. And judging from your emails and your comments and your messages, she hit a nerve. So before we move on to this week's woman, I thought we'd answer a few questions that came in. I'm calling these wake-up questions. Okay, here's the first one. Sandy, I don't really think I have friction. Honestly, life is going great. Well, first, I hope that's true. And I'm not trying to convince anyone that they're secretly miserable. Friction isn't proof that your life is bad. Friction isn't having arguments with people. Friction isn't a negative term. It's simply a signal of anything that's creating unnecessary drag. You can have a wonderful marriage, a career you love, good health, great kids, and still notice you're apologizing before you speak, or second guessing your decision, or feeling strangely exhausted by things that just shouldn't be so hard. Think of it this way. A beautiful sports car can still need an alignment. It still drives. It still gets where it's going. But once aligned, everything becomes smoother. And that's what we're looking for. No problems, less drag. Okay, question 2. How do I know if what I'm experiencing is friction or if life is just hard? Well, that is a great question. And life is hard. People get sick. We lose people we love. Businesses struggle. Dreams don't always work out. Those things are real. And friction doesn't remove hard. It adds unnecessary hard. It whispers things like, you should already know this. Don't disappoint anyone. Don't ask for help. You'd better keep proving yourself. The situation may already be difficult, but friction makes it heavier than it needs to be. Okay, question 3. Isn't it a good thing to be a peacemaker? Absolutely. The goal isn't to stop being kind. The goal isn't to become selfish, and the goal certainly isn't to start picking fights. Being a peacemaker is a beautiful quality. The problem is when keeping the peace costs you your own peace. When you automatically put everyone else's comfort ahead of your own, when you swallow what you really think, when you say yes because saying no feels uncomfortable, and when you manage everyone else's emotions while quietly ignoring your own. That's not peacemaking anymore. That's self abandonment. A true peacemaker helps create peace. A peacemaker often feels responsible for carrying it. There's a big difference. One comes from love, the other usually comes from fear. So, if you recognize yourself in last week's women, well, don't hear criticism, hear compassion. She isn't broken, she's adapted. Now, let's meet this week's woman. And at first glance, she doesn't seem to have a problem at all. In fact, she's probably the woman everyone else admires. She's organized, dependable, capable. She gets things done. And if something falls apart, she's the one you call. If there's a crisis, she steps in. If there's a volunteer needed, her hand goes up. She remembers birthdays, packs lunches, books appointments, plans vacations, keeps the family moving, keeps the business moving, and somehow makes it all happen. People look at her and think, I don't know how she does it. And honestly, neither does she. Because underneath all of that competence is a question she rarely says out loud. If I don't do it, who will? That's the question that's driving her. Not because she's controlling, not because she wants to be the hero, because somewhere along the way, being capable became part of her identity. Being dependable made her feel safe. Being needed made her feel valuable. So she became the woman everyone can count on. The problem is, eventually, everyone did. Little by little, she became the one person nobody was taking care of. She's exhausted, and not because she's weak. She's carrying a load that was never meant to rest on one person's shoulders. So, this is what I call her, the high capacity woman. She isn't broken, she adapted. The other day, I heard someone say something that made me stop in my tracks. When did you can have it all become you can do it all? When did you can have it all quietly become you can do it all? Man, I had to laugh because somewhere along the way, I think a lot of us accidentally accepted that promotion. We have careers, raise children, take care of aging parents, volunteer, run businesses, remember birthdays, plan vacations, help our friends, take meals to people, organize gatherings, keep the house running, stay healthy, smile. And somehow we started believing we were supposed to do all of that. No wonder we're tired. In fact, yesterday I caught myself doing this. I was just trying to make some social media reels for Instagram, graphics, captions, websites, all the pieces that go into sharing a message. And I remember saying out loud, man, I wish somebody would just do this for me. And then 30 seconds later, I thought, oh, forget it. I'll just do it myself. Have you ever done that? Of course you have. That's the high capacity woman. She doesn't necessarily want to do everything. She simply doesn't believe it's safe to let go. She tells herself, it'll be faster if I just do it. I don't want to bother anybody. I'll just take care of it. Or if I don't do it, it won't get done. Or maybe it won't get done right. Sound familiar? Here's what I think is really happening. Last week's woman, the peacekeeper, believed keeping everyone happy keeps her safe. This week's woman, the high capacity woman, believes being needed makes her valuable. Or maybe even more honestly, if I stop carrying it, will everything fall apart? That's not about laziness. And it isn't about productivity. It's about identity. When being capable becomes who you are, it's hard to know when to put something down. You don't even ask, what do I want? You ask, what still needs to be done? That is a very different way to live. So this week, I'd love for you to sit with a few questions. What am I carrying simply because I can? Where has my capacity quietly become my responsibility? What would happen if I asked for help? What would happen if I just let someone else figure it out? Who taught me that being dependable was the same thing as being valuable? And finally, if I stopped believing everything depended on me, what might become possible? Now, I said we'll have a little section called Friction in the Wild. It's like a weekly challenge. And pay attention to how many times this week you hear yourself say, I've got it. I'll just do it. It'll be faster if I do it myself. I don't want to bother anybody. Stop. Don't judge yourself. Just notice it. Because when you notice it, that creates awareness. And awareness creates space. And space gives us room for choice. In today's conversation, if something was stirred up in you, I'd love to give you a gift. Truth is, I want to give you a gift anyway. I've created a complimentary wake up gift that includes the first chapter of my upcoming book, Peace is More Expensive Than Lobster. Inside, you'll find a personal letter from me, some reflection questions, music that I love, and a few surprises I hope you'll enjoy. Just visit agiftforwomen.com and click Yes, I Want It. Then join us on Wednesday at noon Central for Wake Up Call Live. It's conversation, part co-working, part encouragement, completely come as you are. No homework, no pressure, no pretending, just women learning to recognize the invisible friction in our lives and discovering we're not alone. And if another woman comes to mind while you're listening, your sister, your daughter, your friend, a coworker, please send this episode to her, or better yet, send her the wake up gift. Why a wake up gift? Because we might not be trying to wake up. And sometimes we don't need another piece of advice. We might just need a simple explanation about something. So until next time, remember, it's not you, it's friction. And sometimes the strongest woman in the room is simply the one who's been carrying too much for too long. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Pink Lady Posse Podcast, where women go from what now to what's next. Come join us at pinkladyposse.com, where we share community, resources, and tools to support your next beautiful chapter. With love, light, and a little lipstick. See you next time.